All right, the Wimbledon 2025 draw is out, and I'm here to react to it. It's the greatest time of the year. It's Wimbledon. I've got my green shirt on. I've got my white hat on. We got the grass on the studio behind, and we're ready to rock. Alcaraz is going for the three-peat in Wimbledon. Can anyone stop him? It looks like he's got maybe the easier draw between Sinner, Djokovic, Zverev, and him and Draper. So let's see. We're going to break it all down, look at the men's draw, the women's draw, the dark horses, the first round matchups. You know the drill. Let's get into it. This is the slice presented by Betway. Let's go. All right, it's that time of year again. The big dogs are at the championships, and we are wondering how they're going to go. On the men's side of things, it's after the French Open final, which was iconic, historic, all time between Sinner and Alcaraz. I think the biggest question on most tennis fans' mind right now is, will Sinner and Alcaraz play in the final of Wimbledon? Because, yeah, I'll take another one of those. We'd all like to see another final major matchup between these two guys. It's the new big two. That's what we're all talking about after the French Open. Now this is Wimbledon. Alcaraz has won the last 2 years. Sinner's never won this tournament. Um, but it still seems likely that they'll meet in the final. But how likely? We'll talk about that. I think it'll make more sense to talk about it after we look at their draws and their path to the final. But right now, if we just look at what the quarterfinals would look like, because it's always good to start there, like we always do, with where people are at. Sinner's on the top as the number 1 seed. Musetti is the number 7 seed in his quarter. And then you got Jack Draper being the 4th seed, and he's on the top. So he's got the second quarter is his, Jack Draper's, and Novak Djokovic is the 6th seed in Jack Draper's quarter. So those guys are all on the top, which I think is pretty insane because Musetti's very, great on the grass. Sinner's great. Draper's a favorite here. He's the British favorite, 4th seed, and Djokovic all on the top. All guys who I think have a very good. Well, I know Djokovic and Sinner have a very good grass game, but Draper and Musetti are top next prospects for sure. And then on the bottom, we've got the third quarter is Zverev's quarter as the 3rd seed, and he's got the 5th seed Taylor Fritz in his quarter. And then on the bottom, Alcaraz, 2nd seed, and Runa, the 8th seed, is in his quarter. So that is the potential quarterfinals: Sinner versus Musetti, Draper versus Djokovic, Fritz versus Zverev, and Holger Rune versus Carlitos Alcaraz. So I think just from that look, it looks to me like Alcaraz has the simplest draw. Rune on grass, I don't think would really be a big challenge for Alcaraz, if we're just being honest. And the other ones all seem trickier. But that's a high level. So from a high level, the slice is presented by Betway, and the outright odds favorite is Carlos Alcaraz. He is at plus 125 to win, which is extremely low value. Like if you put money on Alcaraz to win Wimbledon, you're just not going to get much back if he wins, which is it's crazy, but is understandable because he's won the last 2 years, and the kid is so comfortable on the grass, so confident, especially after another major victory over Jannik Sinner this time in the final from down 2 sets to love. So really, anytime these matches go 4 or 5 sets, he's like, yeah, you're now swimming in my pool. So really, we'll see if anyone can stop him. I think that's the biggest question. Can anyone stop Alcaraz from three-peating? The two guys who are probably the most likely, Djokovic and Sinner, are on the top half of the draw. So Alcaraz would only meet them in the final. So it is what it is. Let's look at their paths to the final, starting with Sinner, because he's the number 1 seed. So we got to respect that. So Sinner could play or will play Luca Nardi first, and then he could play either Seng or Vukic, and then the tough times start. Shapovalov, 3rd round potential, 27th seed. Shapovalov, former semifinalist here. He's gone as far as Sinner ever has at the Wimbledon championships. In the fourth round, Sinner could play Paul or Dimitrov, and then in the quarterfinals, Musetti. So those 3 rounds, if those are the guys he plays, like let's say he goes Shapovalov, Paul, Musetti, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. On the grass, a guy like Shapovalov, if he's playing lights out and serving huge, he's extremely hard to play. Obviously, Sanders has the more well-rounded game, much bigger game in general. Not much bigger game, bigger game in general. He's a bigger player, but Alcaraz has got an incredible game on grass. If he could, Shapovalov has got an incredible game on grass if he can find it. So that's dangerous. Tommy Paul, or Dimitrov, both fantastic on the grass. Musetti, fantastic on the grass. So then if Sinner gets through Musetti in the quarterfinals, he would either play probably Djokovic or Draper. So again, doesn't get much harder than that other than Alcaraz. So that's a tough semifinal for Sinner. And then if he makes it through there, he will most likely play Carlos Alcaraz in the final, and then all of our dreams will be fulfilled to see that matchup again. But to me, Sinner looks like he has, just from the start of it, how can you have a much tougher draw than that as the first seed? So I would say his path to the final is a bit of a treacherous one. Now let's go to Djokovic next. He's got Mueller in the first round, then Dan Evans potentially, then Alex Mickelson in the third round. Probably mostly unproven on grass, but then it gets really tough in the fourth round. Alex De Minaur is now the 11th seed, so he drops out of the top 8, and he could play Djokovic in the fourth round, which is a serious test for Djokovic in the fourth round. Then it goes quarterfinals Jack Draper, semifinals Sinner, finals Alcaraz. So, I mean, how much harder could it get? That's, if he were to run the gauntlet there, I think he had a similar setup at the Australian, similar setup at the French now, that his rankings outside of the top 4, he can play the 4, the 1, and the 2 seeds in order to win Wimbledon. It would be, in my opinion, right now, his greatest accomplishment if he were to do that. Fairly unlikely, I would say. Just not trying to be a hater, but just tough ending there. But I think with Djokovic right now, the goal for him and for the Nole fam would be how well can he play. He's actually done very well. He did at Australia. He beat Alcaraz, made the quarterfinals. No, someone else was saying on the broadcast later saying quarterfinals. He made the semifinals, lost to Zverev. He made the semifinals at the French Open, lost to Sinner. So he is, both majors this year so far, he's made semifinals. So great year for him at the majors. Everything else, not really, but the majors are what he's always been focusing on, or has for the last 5 years at least. So Djokovic will look to, I think, get to the semifinals again, and he would have to beat Draper potentially to do it. But would that really shock anyone? He'd have to beat De Minaur and then Draper potentially, which at his age, Draper is going to be looking to make a statement with a win like that if the time comes. Let's go Zverev's path to the final. Rinderknech first round, Pablo Carreño Busta second round, Matteo Berrettini third round as the 32nd seed. Tough. And then either Sorundalo or Khachanov. And then in the quarterfinals, it's either Taylor Fritz or Daniil Medvedev, the 9th seed. He's dropped out of the top 8 as well. And then in the semifinals, Alcaraz, final Sinner. So tough for Zverev as well. But as the 3rd seed, I would like, out of the draws we've seen so far, that's the easiest draw, I would say, until the semifinals, which it gets to the end, like to the top level of toughness. But semifinals are always going to be tough, or they should be. Next, Alcaraz. Let's look at the Alcaraz draw. He could play he will play Fanini first, and then either Reedy or Tarve. And then he also gets a dash of the Canadian Challenge in the 3rd round. He'll play Felix Auger-Aliassime. If he gets there, the 25th seed in the 3rd round. That's tough. Felix has beaten Alcaraz a couple of times. Obviously, never had a major, but on that grass surface, that's one of Felix's favorite. So we will see there. That's a tough challenge for Alcaraz in the third round. And then he'd either play Rublev or Tsitsipas. Got two guys whose rankings have dropped. Rublev's the 14th seed. Tsitsipas is the 24th seed. So that's pretty crazy. Obviously, taking Alcaraz against either of those guys at the moment. And then in the quarterfinals, he could play Runa or Tiafoe, the 12th seed. Again, Alcaraz with the sauce on the quarterfinals. I'm taking him, obviously. And then he'll play either Zverev or Fritz in the semifinals. And at that stage, he's going to have so much more confidence than either of those guys. And then in the final, he could either play Sinner, Djokovic, Draper, whoever makes it from the top. But yeah, out of all the guys so far, Alcaraz, I would say, has the most straightforward draw out of the big three. I would say, being Sinner, Djokovic, Alcaraz. So yeah, what do people think about that? Another kind of like a little bit of a, I wouldn't like. I think in the French Open, Alcaraz was on the bottom as well. Everyone else that was like his biggest competitor was on the top. So it's kind of a repeat of that. So that's interesting. And lastly, Draper, we got to give him the credit because he's the fourth seed. Plays Baez in the first round, then Cilic, then Bublik in the third round. I mean, that's a nightmare third round matchup. No one wants to see that. Bublik's playing unreal tennis right now. Just beat Sinner in Halle. And now Jack Draper might have to play him in the third round of Wimbledon. But 5 sets, Draper with the home crowd. He's going to like his chances, but he's got, let's say this for free, a lot more pressure on him than Bublik does. If he gets through Bublik, he could play Mensik in the fourth round or Kaboli. And then the quarterfinals, Djokovic, semifinals, Sinner, finals, Alcaraz. So I think British tennis fans should look for Draper to get to like the quarterfinals, semifinals would be an amazing tournament for him. But winning it this year seems extremely unlikely. Just going to be honest. Let's throw up the draw on the screen here and go through each quarter as we always do. There's the draw with the new Wimbledon poster behind, looking very clean and beautiful. Sinner, Nardi, who's in Sinner's quarter? That is the dark horse. I would say David Goffin. He is a clean hitter of the ball. We all know this. He's a master. And in the draw here, so zoom in a little bit more. David Goffin finds himself right in the middle. He'll beat Ricky Hijikata in the first round. Then he'll play Ben Shelton. So Ben Shelton versus David Goffin. I'm pretty sure they might have played in Miami. I'm not exactly sure, but that's Goffin's the type of guy who could return Ben's serve as well as any, even though he's not big, and use timing to disrupt Ben, I think, who lost first round in Mallorca. So yeah, I think he's the dark horse if there is one in that quarter. Good first round matchups. There's not any. I think the two Frenchmen, Monfils versus Humbert in the first round. That's interesting. Luca Nardi's a great player, so Sinner versus Nardi's a great matchup. Two Italians. Other than that, nothing huge to hang your hat on, I don't think. The Jack Draper quarter. What's next? Who do we got as the dark horses here? I would say in this quarter, the dark horse is this guy, Marin Cilic. Remember him? Wimbledon finalist before. Great player. He could play Jack Draper in the second round, which would be I think, very scary second round match for Jack Draper. But we've got Bublik, Kaboli, Mensik, Demonauer, Mahach, Mikkelsen, and Djokovic in this quarter. So, yeah, Djokovic being in your quarter, not as the top seed in the quarter, is kind of crazy. And Jack Draper's getting the unfortunate experience of having that be the reality this year at Wimbledon. Dan Evans, I would also say, is a bit of a dark horse, although he has to play Djokovic in the second round if he beats Jay Clark in the first. Dan Evans getting the wild card. He's back on good terms, it seems, with the LTA. But yeah, any big first round matchups there? I don't see anything that jumps out to me, to be honest. So maybe the most interesting might be Jakub Mensik versus Hugo Gaston. A bit of a see if Mensik can exterminate the rat in that move or in that match. We'll see, but that's a tricky one. Gaston, very tricky. All right, the Zverev quarter with Fritz in it. The third seed Zverev quarter. We've got Hurkacz, I would say, being the dark horse. Even though he's obviously had terrible form, Here he is, unseeded, which is crazy. He is a Wimbledon finalist or semifinalist. I always forget. But he's played great on the grass. He's got one of the biggest serves in the game. Can he just not beat himself? That's the real question. I also think since this is a fairly open draw, Gabriel Diallo has been playing amazing tennis, our Canadian boy. He was just in Mallorca. He just won a tournament. He won the Libema Open in Hertogenbosch. So he's super confident right now on the grass, and he could play Taylor Fritz in the second round if Taylor doesn't lose to Giovanni Pesci Perry Card, which is also a nightmare first round matchup for Fritz. So I would say the top this quarter, fairly open. Danil Medvedev in it, Poprin, Davidovich, Fokina, Cerundolo, Khachanov, Berrettini. Yeah. Lots of big hitting talent in that third quarter. Ethan Quinn there, straight in, no longer even a qualifier. You'll love to see that. So yeah, that's a great quarter, and I think maybe the most open of them all so far. And definitely because Alcaraz's quarter here is like it's Alcaraz versus the field to get out of this quarter, of course, 100%. So who are the dark horses? I think there's a few in this quarter. We've got Lerner Tien. We got like all the young, talented guys in this quarter. Lerner Tien, Joao Fonseca, and Jensen Brooksby. So we've got Lerner Tien versus another young, amazing player, Nishesh Bazavarati from the U.S. That's a great matchup. Tien versus Bazavarati. You got to love that in the first round. Brooksby versus Griekspoor and Fonseca versus Fernley. So this whole section right here is extremely talented. Those are the dark horses, and they're all close together. I would say Felix Auger-Aliassime and Tsitsipas can both play great on the grass, and they're going to be tough challenges potentially for Alcaraz. But yeah, this is definitely Alcaraz's quarter to lose. Now, prediction time on the men's side. If I had to pick a man to win right now, it would be Alcaraz. I think it's pretty clear. He's won the last 2 Wimbledons. He's the most confident player in the world right now at the majors. And yeah, on grass, he's unbelievable. So he's my pick to win, and he's the challenge. Who can beat Alcaraz? It's becoming like, Djokovic beat him at the Australian, but he's won the last 2 Wimbledons and French Open. So on the natural surfaces, he hasn't lost on a natural surface at a major since trivia 2023 French Open. And he lost there to Djokovic, I believe. Let's just confirm that because I'm forgetting somehow. Yeah. Alcaraz lost to Djokovic there, which was the cramping episode, 6-1, 6-1 in the third and fourth sets. So that's the last time Alcaraz, that was 2023, lost on a natural surface at a major. So let's see. But he's the man to beat, in my opinion, and that's the prediction and the preview of the men's draw. Let's go to the ladies' championship. Up on the screen, Aryna Sabalenka, the number 1 seed, versus Carson Branstein. Now, if you haven't heard the story, Carson Branstein is one of the new Canadian tennis sensations. She's 24 years old. She played college tennis, and she went through a bunch of health concerns. She will be on the show soon, but she's had an amazing time at Wimbledon so far, qualifying, going through Boisson, who was the semifinalist in the French, then beating Bianca Andreescu, her best friend, and Canadian superstar who had to qualify. Carson Branstein beats her, and then she beat another player and qualified for the main draw in order to face Aryna Sabalenka in the first round. So toughest possible draw for Carson, I think, so far, but she's an amazing story, amazing player, tall, athletic, and yeah, really, I think a big star in the making in Canadian tennis. So we're excited to have her and have her doing so well. So yeah, but Sabalenka is going for her first major of the year. And I picked at the beginning of the year, this would be Sabalenka's first major off a hard court. We thought it might have been at the French. She played a terrible match. Coco Gauff outdueled her in a tough French Open final. She lost again to a U.S. player in Australia, Madison Keys. So it's been 2 heartbreaking finals for Sabalenka so far this year. Can she do it on the grass? This is a surface that would suit her, and she is my favorite to start on the women's side. But we will see because, like I said, are the demons of these matches going to come out and haunt her? We'll have to wait and see. But her start is not easy, I would say, with Carson Branstein, who's like similar kind of build to her and plays a huge game qualifier. And then she could go through. Then she might have to play Bukova, and then Kessler or Raducanu. Kessler's massive, huge server, huge game, or Vondrousova or Kessler. So Sabalenka's got like a tough draw to start here, and then she could play Svitolina, and then she could play Badoza or Madison Keys in the quarterfinals. So I think Sabalenka's got the toughest possible draw for her. I mean, that's incredible. How many tall, big hitting players are in her draw? Vondrousova literally won Wimbledon a couple of years ago. Madison Keys just beat her to win the Australian Open, playing Branstein in the first round. Emma Raducanu. I mean, that is a crazy quarter, if you ask me. So Sabalenka is going to do well to get out of that quarter, even though it's hers and she's the first seed, but that is very tough. So Sabalenka, Keys, top 2 potential quarterfinalists. And then we've got Jasmine Paolini and Qinwen Zheng in the same quarter. In the second quarter, who else is in there? Naomi Osaka, Ayla Tomljanovic, Pavlium Chunkeva, Ons Jabeur, unseeded. All these players unseeded, unbelievable. Anisimova in there as the 13th seed. And yeah, that's pretty amazing if you ask me. If we look at wild cards, interesting. So I don't know. Let's look. Okay, yeah, no, Alexandria Ayala is in there as without having to qualify because her ranking just gets her straight in, so she's in the next quarter. Yeah, Qinwen Zheng there, Ostapenko, Schneider, Anisimova, Haddad Maya, Paolini. Tough quarter there, fairly open. Paolini's great on the grass, unbelievable skill, but these players who have bigger games than her can definitely upset her, I would say, in this format. So that's a fairly open quarter, I would say. And let's move on to the next, the Pagula quarter. Mira Andreeva, the 7th seed, bookends that. But yeah, like I said, Alexandra Ayala from the Philippines, she's cooking. She's in the finals of Eastbourne, and she's playing great on the grass. If you follow the podcast, our Ayala hour, we break down her results, and she's had tough results all the way through the clay swing, but into the grass, her serve. It's not that hard, but it comes in with a lot of spin and skips, and it's weird for players, and they can't read it. And she stays up on the baseline and punches, and is aggressive, changes direction very well. So she's hard to handle on the grass. So she's a superstar. She'll play Barbora Krejcikova, Wimbledon champion, as well in the first round. So welcome to the big leagues. There's no easy rounds when you're unseeded, especially at the majors. But Mira Andreeva, she's there in that quarter. Pagula plays Cacciaretto in the first round. So yeah, that looks to be another dense, tough round on the women's side. Emma Navarro is the 10th seed there. And then we go to the bottom quarter, which is extremely interesting, if you ask me, because we've got, who's the 2nd seed? Oh yeah, Coco Gauff. And who's the 8th seed is, yeah, Iga Swiatek. So her ranking's fallen big time, mainly because of losing French Open points. Coco Gauff, the 2nd seed, bookmarked by Swiatek, who's not confident on the grass, but she, I think, has just been playing pretty good on the grass in another. So she's in the final of Bad Homburg. So she just beat Paolini, Alexandrova, Azarenka. So she's actually been playing well on the grass leading up to Wimbledon here. She plays Kudermentova in the first round. Who else we got there? Marta Kostyuk, Clara Tauson, Rybakina is the 11th seed. So she could play Swiatek in the 4th round. So that would be Like, I would almost pick Rybakina to win that. She would actually be the odds favorite to win that, I think, because she's a higher outright odds favorite to win the whole tournament on Betway. And then Coco Gauff's there playing Yastremska, and then Azarenka, and then Kenin, and then Kasatkina or Samsonova. So a great women's draw. I think Sabalenka is my pick to win. I pick her to win every tournament right now, but especially on the Wimbledon. Like, I thought she had more chance here than the French Open, but we will see how her past traumas of losing 2 finals in a row will play with her. But you could also look at it; she made 2 finals in a row, so she's gonna be a very hard player to beat. But it's like if I had to say who am I more confident, Alcaraz winning or Sabalenka, I would say Alcaraz. And that seems crazy, but there's a lot of women out there who can pose a serious challenge to Sabalenka. So those are my predictions. Alcaraz and Sabalenka champions, not super crazy at all. But a general preview of the tournament, I think a lot of players are playing well right now. I think there's so much depth on the men's side and the women's side. So it's a very intriguing tournament and draw in general. And it's like the best time of the year. It's Wimbledon. People are out. Djokovic, Alcaraz practiced on center court. Again, buddies joking about how Alcaraz doesn't give Djokovic an easy time anymore, beating the last 2 Wimbledon finals. So it's great time. It's a great time to be a tennis fan. Leave your thoughts on everything down below as normal. Follow the website. We've got a new writer, Jacob Pacheco from Twitter. He's the best Canadian Twitter follower that I found, and now he's writing articles for the Slice. So check those out on our website. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter for daily updates from the tournament. And until the next time, until round 1 gets going, we will see you then. Thanks for watching.